Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Well, the controversy continues to trail the weekend primary election of the APC to pick candidates for its council polls coming up. Right now in our studio, we have Honorable Sheye Oladejo, who is the spokesperson of the APC in Lagos, to respond to some of the issues that have been raised so far. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Morning. Well, the issues are diverse. First of all, how many complaints have you received?
I'm not in a position to be precise, but when you compare to the number of local government chairmanship slots that we have to fill, I can just say we have pockets of complaint, which is not really out of place for party tickets that are competitive, and we know the value attached to it. And we also know that there's always a price to pay for our success over the years. So you understand the passion attached to it and the interest of party members to pick those tickets, because most likely they're as good as winning when they pick APC tickets in Lagos.
But you do know that there have been protests as a result of those as a result of the complaints?
Yes, I'm aware. And those protests, too, are just within what I'll call normal expectation at this point in time, and is within the democratic rights of those who are protesting, which we welcome as a party, and that's why we're addressing it by setting up an appeal committee to link to all these protests.
What are some of the issues that have been raised, in your opinion?
Well, a whole lot of issues bordering on some people not qualified to contest, which will be determined by the appeal committee, or the process being manipulated, which that committee is also empowered to look into. But I don't want to preempt and address specific complaints, because that will be undermining the power of the committee so set up.
We had a guest here yesterday who was representing the Yaba LCDA, and one of the complaints he brought forward was that the APC, that the election, the primaries that held, did not quite align with the rules set up in the party's constitution. Can you corroborate that or refute it?
When you agree to be a member of a party, a political party as it were, or an association, or even a community, it behoves that you submit yourself to abide by the rules and constitution and the laws guiding such an association. When LASER released the guidelines for these elections, we also released our set of guidelines, which were well publicized, published in national dailies. And those guidelines speak specifically to the way we will conduct our guidelines. And our constitution allows us to have our candidates emerge, either through consensus or direct or indirect primaries. So we decided to have consensus where it was possible, and indirect primaries where consensus did not work. So precisely those are worked with it.
There was a particular, for instance, there's one that I'm reading in one of the dailies here, talking about the fact that some people were rejecting the outcome of the Bariga and Shomolu APC chairmanship primaries, because as far as they're concerned, that they do not have authentic chairmanship candidates, as the process that produced them was considered fraudulent, monetized, and manipulated. Is this part of the process that...
All these opinions are personal, and it depends on the side of the divide those people are. All politics are local. When you could have consensus, it means that the leadership and the membership of the party in the specific local governments agree to that consensus and the candidates. And where that was not possible, we had delegates from various local governments who were also executive members of the local government area of the party who voted for the preferred candidate. So to just dismiss the process that way would not be fair to the process that produced those candidates.
Is it also true, because that's one of the allegations making the rounds, that a member of the GAC's child was favored because of the father as a member of the GAC?
Let me just say very clearly that this last process was not influenced by the GAC in any way, because clearly what the party decided was everybody should have a level playing field to fairly contest. I also want to put it on record that it is not a crime, it's not against the law that some leaders have been in politics and their children are also political actors, And for that reason, they should be denied the right to fairly also compete with other members for political offices. That would not be fair. What would be wrong is when those children, so to say, are accorded undue favor as a result of the status of their father. And that, to the best of my knowledge, did not happen in our party. No, it did.
But that's the allegation out there, that some of these people were favored because of the position of their fathers.
No, you will have allegations from everywhere in this kind of situation in a way to prove your case. It's for you to it's not enough to allege. The important thing, the honest proof is on the person that is alleging.
I know that Malcolm would also want to come in on this, but let me quickly ask you this question. What, from the feedback that you are getting, the general notion out there would probably be that maybe there wasn't enough consensus in these particular localities. In fact, I saw a video where some of them was alleging that the activity of the Lagos APC in the run-up to these primaries could also cost the state the way it cost the APC, the way it cost the APC, you know, during the presidential elections.
Oh, that was a fluke. What happened during the presidential election was a fluke. And a few days after that election, that situation was reversed. That's to show you that that was a fluke. And let me also make it very clear. We actually had consensus in just 4 local governments. Ijede, Awori, Iba, SCDA, and Lekki. Those are the only places we had consensus. For all others, we had indirect primaries, where we had delegates voting for the aspirants of their choice, and they emerged through this process. It was an open thing. So it wasn't a case of imposition. And where we had those consensus in those 4 local governments, all the stakeholders signed off.
All right. Marco, go ahead.
So the question will then be, why are there, you know, problems? Why are there complaints trailing this particular primaries if it was a simple process of voting? Oh,
well, you expect that as politicians, whenever a process appeared not to have ended up favorably, they will look for excuses to see if they could still pay the ticket through some other means. So it's not totally strange that people will complain. But over time, since the advent of this dispensation, our process, our system has been proven and trusted to deliver the best candidates for our party during elections, and they always go on to win. We also manage this. We have internal mechanism to resolve all those conflict areas, and we'll approach the election with a united force come 12th of July.
Well, that's not what your party members say. Some of your party members who have spoken to us say that the influence of Baba Sokwe is still very strong, as Baba has said, for our viewers who do not speak Yoruba, talking about the kingmakers and the influence of the godfathers still very strongly felt, and that sometimes the process is not as straightforward as you're trying to make it seem. And there'll be questions as to why is this so? Because voting should be one of the fairest ways, one of the most transparent ways that, yes, you might have done all your lobbying, you might have, you know, sought your support from wherever, but at the end of the day, when it comes to brass tacks, it should be that the way the voting is conducted is clear, transparent for everyone to see who eventually carried the day.
Well, there was voting. To the best of my knowledge, there was no issue of Baba Sokwe. Every politics is local, and interestingly, this happened to be a local government election. We had a process where we had delegates from the various local governments, the 20 local governments and the 37 local council development areas, who were all duly accredited, and the voting was in the open. We brought all the TV stations in the full glare of everybody to see what was going on, and the votes were counted after the voting, and the results declared. So the issue of undue influence of Baba Sokwe, or whatever name they want to call it, is uncalled for in this case. I think it's just a case of giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it. The process was very free and fair, but the case, as it may be, they still have the opportunity, and I will want to enjoin those who are protesting to seize the opportunity of the appeal panel to make their case clear for all to see.
Would you say then that those who are complaining are bad losers?
There are members of our party we're all family members. In the APC family in Lagos, nobody really loses. If you don't pick it today, there's always another opportunity to still be a part of the government.
I understand your diplomacy, but if you say that there was nothing wrong with the process and it was free and fair and everybody could see that those who were declared winners were those who actually won, and it would mean that those who are complaining just for the heck of it, or that they are sore losers. Is that what you're insinuating?
Politicians should learn the art of managing whatever situation. This is the only game where you can have a draw. There must be a winner. And some other person will have to wait for another day. It's a process we've all accepted, we've all signed off on the guidelines for the party, and whatever comes out of it. And let me also say that that process was highly successful. We have people from about 6-7 local governments protesting out of 57. That is a very, very good pass mark to me. Quite excellent.
Well, I did hear Mr. Babatunde Ogala, SAN, who was the chair of that committee, say the same thing. He said that as far as it's concerned, they even got 80%, and that will even be.
Precisely.
That would qualify as more than good, so to speak. But it also in this game, in the game of politics, 80% good is not good enough. If people are dissatisfied and they are complaining, you cannot dismiss the complaints of the 20%. Just as you cannot have a draw in this particular game, if this is a game. So there are questions as to what then, how then would you be seeking to resolve the complaints? Because you've asked them to bring forward their complaints, you're willing to look at them. What then will be the resolution if it is already agreed that indeed the process was free and fair and it is uncertain why people are complaining?
Let me just assure you, and of course by extension members of the general public, that our party will not dismiss any protest, no matter how minute. And that's why we have a committee in place already, the appeal committee, headed by Mr. Lawal Pedro, SAN, who also happens to be the Attorney General and the Honorable Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State. It is very deliberate, intentional, that we put a legal head as the head of the appeal committee to look at all those gray areas. And let me just assure you that the committee, headed by Mr. Lawal and other eminent politicians who are leaders in our party, will look at all these areas of complaints and ensure that justice is not only served, it will be seen to be served. And I want to assure all those who are still discontented to just continue to maintain the peace while they are encouraged to approach this appeal committee for redress.
Well, Mr. Oladejo, for you, looking at the process, I want to imagine that you were there on that day. You were part of the process, and you must have seen, just how things transpired, how they played out with the congresses. What would you say can be improved upon? Yes, you might say that the process was very well done, it was very well conducted, but as with every process, people say you can always improve on something. What would you say needs to be improved in the process of the APC primaries?
Well, we need to continue to engender understanding. We need to continue to ensure that our members familiarize themselves with the guidelines guiding our various elections, by extension, the constitution of the party. Because when you look at some of those complaints, you realize that there have been cases of people not being adequately informed and well acquainted with the process itself. I think if members deliberately go out of their way to be sure of the guidelines attached to all of this and avoid unnecessary rumor mongering and avail themselves of the opportunity readily available in the party to have good understanding, going forward, this process could be improved and more acceptable to all and sundry.
Now, if you were to recommend, or rather advise, based on the appeal committee's function, how should people table their complaints to the appeal? How does the appeal committee work?
Oh, yeah, the appeal committee would only address petitions, not protests on the street. We expect that they will state their peculiar cases, depending on, and I want to believe that these cases vary from local government to local government. I have seen a local government claiming that the candidate that emerged, as it were, will be going for a third term. They will need to say that clearly, and maybe they also want to help the committee by stating the relevant laws to their grounds. And same thing will apply to all others who claim there was no voting, there was no consensus, and the committee will be able to look at this individually on its own merit and be able to make a recommendation to the electoral committee, which we now have to reconvey to consider the report.
Well, you just said now, you just said now that the election is in the first half of July.
Yes.
It's less than 2 months away, if memory serves me right. How long does this appeal committee have to ask?
Oh, barely a week. Barely a week, everything will be ratified and right on time for us to submit our list of candidates to LASEC. So there's still enough time to look at all the issues still outstanding and make sure that we put our house in order.
From what time to what time does this appeal committee sit?
1 week.
What day? From what day?
It started from yesterday till next week.
Okay. And when will the final list be out?
Oh, after the report of the appeal committee has been submitted and it has been considered by the electoral committee and the final submission made to the party. It's the party that will submit the list to LASEC.
Well, one can say that it's unimaginable that the appeal committee will appease everybody. So is there a plan to calm all nerves so that they don't work against the party in the elections?
From our history as a party, we've had tougher situations. I mean, during governorship election and the rest of it. And somehow we always manage to resolve all issues. So if such full proven process is not broken, why do we need to fix it? We will appeal to our members, and I can assure you that everybody will shield their sword before the election. I will go there with a united force and win, as usual.
Okay. We have to thank you very much for your time this morning. Honorable Sheye Oladejo is a spokesman of the APC in Lagos. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Before we take on the next conversation and take a break, let me inform you that the Federal Ministry of Works has announced a planned road closure for critical repair works on the Ijora Marine Bridge from Sunday, May 18 from 7 a.m. on that 18th May 2025, and it will last 21 days. The closure will be full at some sections of the bridge and partial at other sections. This critical project aims to improve road safety and enhance the driving experience of motorists. So once again, the Federal Ministry of Works has announced a planned road closure for critical repair works on the Ijora Marine Bridge from Sunday, 18th May 2025 as from 8 a.m. and it will last 21 days. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll take on our next conversation. Do stay with us.